the finals, then he's done.
Yeah, and this is the matchup, really. One of my favorite matchups in the metagame. A matchup that has, over time and over skill cap, kind of tilted towards the rogue. I think as more and more people got better at both decks, that edged the matchup towards the rogue a little bit more. As the even as nerfs came in, I think that edged things over to rogue a little bit more, right? Because initially, this deck played with 2-mana Deck of Lunacy, 4-mana Refreshing Springwater, and now neither of those things are true. And you know, I kind of have to hold the L on this because you know I was one of the people really making fun of the idea that nerfing Refreshing Springwater was not going to do nearly enough. It has done a lot, right? Like, the deck has lost win rate significantly. If you compare win rate, for example, in this matchup specifically, now and just pre-patch, it has dropped significantly. So it has created a few bad matchups for the Mage that didn't really exist before. But the problem still exists, right? And it's specifically this problem, that one card has a massively inflated mulligan win rate in the deck. But overall, the win rate of Mage as a deck has gone down significantly.
Excuse me, yeah. It'll be interesting to track going forward as well, how that impacts Mage. You know, even within the next few weeks, with obviously the mini set coming out in the near future too. But that's for then. This is for now, and AyRoK is going to be able to spend the more expensive Arcane Intellect on drawing some cards, which makes sense just for that mana efficiency. But I don't know about you, Sol, but Frenetic feels like he just has everything he needs, at least for an early push and a ton of card draw in the near future.
Yeah, this hand is gas. There's no Kazakus, there's no Octobot. Those are the two best cards in the matchup. I mean, shut your eyes and put a random class on the other side of the board, and those are the best two cards in the matchup. But specifically against Mage, I think they're very, very powerful. But he does have just about everything you could possibly need outside of that. Take the Primordial Studies, play a Primordial Studies just to spend your mana this turn. Okay, I'm on board. That curves out on the following turn as well, yeah, smart pickup, I like it.
Yeah, AyRoK won't really be too excited about this Font of Power. He could just start with Rune.
I think I do like leading with the font because you might get minions in hand that influence your spell decisions, whereas you have no degree of control over what the minions are.
Sure.
You know, maybe you get Varden and then Cone of Cold becomes more appealing, Brain Freeze becomes more appealing, Flurry becomes more appealing, for example.
Right. That's fair. I guess I was thinking more about hand space as an issue if he wants to Arcane Intellect. The things get a little bit choppy if the minions aren't low cost, of course, and aren't dumpable.
I think Frenetic from this point just wants burn, though. Like, he took one Thief, or he played one Thief, didn't really get offered any burn, and then I think he's just playing... he's playing Stuart largely because it's just the on-curve minion, but also because it gives him the opportunity to just look for the Sinister Strike or Wicked Stab or something, right, to follow that up with, because really all he's missing right now. Like, I don't think he's planning to be holding onto this board for a long time from this point, but he's done so much damage already in the early game that he's just a couple of Wicked Stabs away from a good time.
I'll tell you something, though. Pretty nice combustion placement.
What to do? What to do?
Yes.
Works out, doesn't it? Yeah, though, double combustion solves most problems. If one won't do it, two almost always do. But Frenetic, because he's held onto this coin, he's got Prize Plunderer, he can't use it yet, means that he can look, at least if it's not this turn, but probably next turn, to really go off with that field contact and draw all of those cards that he wants to here. Okay, that was the best one. The rest of the draws from Secret Passage kind of sucked, but that was the recovery part.
These are some pretty bad keywords. He did get Summon a Copy, though, which is the good effect.
So many options.
Although, actually, just realizing that he's picked one in that position. I just saw Summon a Copy and then gave up on thinking about what he was picking at that point, and then just noticed spell damage +1, which, if it's a 1 cost, then I imagine he has just picked the spell damage at that point.
It would make
I guess-
sense, wouldn't it?
That's really interesting. I did go lifesteal summon a copy. Okay. I was 100% expecting him to still take a 5 there because it still felt like he was in a pretty good position. Like, he just goes Golem, summon a copy, Brain Freeze on this turn to deal up the 2-3, right? And just continue to put on pressure. That just absolutely seemed like where my head was at. I know what he's doing is lining up the field contact turn, but felt like he just had a very aggressive option to deal with that.
Yeah, and even if something weird happens, you don't need to Brain Freeze. You've got Yoink. You know, if you went for Rush instead, I don't know. Like the options are definitely there, but
Oh, hello.
hold on.
Hello.
That seems like many cards and many mana reduced.
Not playing it? You immediately get all the mana back.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Efficient is sufficient.
He's trading 1 mana on his field contact for 1 extra draw, which is probably fine. Yeah, sure. Okay. Second Plunderer can be coined, but I kind of like my coin as a coin currently with the Alexstrasza in hand and how close to lethal you are right now.
Yeah, especially when you consider one of the few things that might put a stop to you is an ice barrier at some point.
What were the 3 hero power options? Did you see them?
They were Demon Hunter and Rubbish, I think.
Okay.
I can't even track them. Yeah, I don't recall them, but they weren't like Hunter or anything, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. It's weird to pick Demon Hunter because, you know, like Druid is strictly better, for example, and like Rogue is arguably strictly better. I think sometimes people get trapped into picking Demon Hunter because their brain still tells them it costs 1, right? And that doesn't matter. So I just wanted to double check what the other options were.
Testing what?
And the iron hand of the wastes.
Also knows it's not counterspell, right? So he can do the setup.
Yep. And it's
Double Wicked
1-0.
Stab puts him, and is just on 30 health that Frenetic has. I think we see a big problem with this game from AyRoK with the left side of his hand. 2 natural fireballs have just been sat there all game and have achieved literally nothing.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you just play more cards and kill the bigger one. I'm confused as to what was the thought process was here. Okay.
I'm more thinking, was there any punish to playing minions here? Probably not, right?
Frenetic playing minions?
Yeah, I was just trying to think if there's any like weird lifesteal effect, but there's not that I can even think of at this point.
What to
Nope.
do?
But you know what I mean? Because like he doesn't need to play any minions at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, the argument is if you leave 9 on board, you might actually just die on the other side against Incantus
Sure.
Flow Mage, right? There's a world where refreshing Springwater things happen, and you are simply dead. So if the prize plunderer was coming down anyway, you might as well just play all the other stuff, and they're up the board.
And there is the Alexstrasza, to no surprise of AyRoK, as I think he just said, wow. See, this is why AyRoK needs to win, because I want more of this on camera for me in Grandmasters. But Frenetic does take game number 1, and Sol is loving life right now.
I am, yeah. It's a very interesting emotional character development for our character of AyRoK on the hit TV show Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. Because he's gone from being, very genuine and emotional and open to now just the next week just being generic salty Hearthstone player, which I'm kind of here for. It's a very nice evolution.
Yeah, I think what he really did was last week was, oh, I'm in trouble now, I could get relegated, this is how I really feel. Week after, he's like, I've lost it now.
Yeah.
I've just lost it. I'm going off the rails.
It's gone.
Yeah. But Frenetic is leading this series, of course, now, and he is going to be moving over to his Mage in this game number 2, going up against AyRoK's Paladin. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, AyRoK is playing the Secret Libram version of Paladin, which is a list I've actually quite liked. I've been jamming it a little bit the last couple of days on ladder, and it just feels strong. Doesn't do anything fancy, Sol. It it just gets the job done.
That's kind of Paladin's MO, right? Like, there's nothing mind-blowingly explosive that they do. Like, if you line up the ceiling of what a Paladin can achieve versus what a Mage or Rogue, Miracle Rogue, Weapon Rogue, or anything like that can achieve, right? You would wonder why everyone thinks that Paladin is the best deck, but Paladin just has high-quality cards throughout the mana curve, all from, 1 up to 9 in most cases, right? They can just do powerful things every single turn, whereas the other decks are a little bit more feast or famine, and kind of have draws that starve a bit more often. So, I think overall, Paladin is in a very good place, as it usually is.
Yeah, just strong, nothing too flashy overall, but Frenetic is going to be on that Mage again. I think even though we talked about the drop-off of Mage recently over the past week or so, I think even aside from that, it's becoming just accepted that yes, you should just play Lunacy in your deck. It's just correct at this point in the game.
Does seem to be widely accepted, yeah. I came around to it, I think, in the middle of the pack. I wasn't there with the early adopters, but there were still some holdouts at the time I came around to it as well. But now it does seem that almost universally it's agreed that Deck of Lunacy is just fulfilling that X factor. It's something to do on turn 4 in a lot of positions since you can't play Springwater anymore, and it does feel like the deck just sometimes needs that kick, because just that 1 mana nerf has impacted the ability to do those disgusting miracle turns that were possible with the deck before, right? So just adding that extra kick into proceedings does seem to be very beneficial. And honestly, as dumb as this sounds, I think people have just got better at playing with the Deck of Lunacy as well, which has increased the win rate of that style of deck significantly.
100% agree. I also think something that we might see changing soon as well is just more Paladins playing just Conviction, almost regardless of archetype, right? Because at the moment, in AyRoK's list, for example, it's the secret package and the Libram package, and that's it. But I do think there's always room to find space for even just one Conviction, right? Just for basically often a +6 damage out of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very, very good card. I think generally you do want some kind of payoff to go with it. I guess Blademaster Samurai comes in hand, and sure, I guess that is a payoff for it. But I'm thinking more, like obviously there was the Wind Fury before Crab Rider ending up getting nerfed, and I think most Paladin decks that play Conviction look to be very heavy on Divine Shields where possible as well, which is also massive. So I think, Conviction, the power of Conviction might be a little bit overstated if it just lands on generic minions. But at the same time, 100% agree. The amount of damage that it represents for such a low mana cost, I think it's certainly within the argument of being included in any Paladin deck.
Yeah, and AyRoK is, I would say, keeping... okay, especially now, he's keeping up with what he needs to do, because I think against Mage, you can't really let up at any point. I think it has to be pressure into Libram of Hope, which we can see AyRoK has. Frenetic, on the other hand, though.
Oh, that was the second Oh My Yogg.
Whoa. Okay. Is that... did he just kind of play flow again? Is that just better?
He kind of did just play flow, yeah. It's different. Obviously, Wild Growth Overgrowth only gives you a set amount of mana per turn, where there's no upper limit of how much mana you cheat per turn when you discount the cards in your deck. So it's mana cheat in a different way, but it's still mana cheat. But yeah, it was a very interesting back and forth dynamic, because obviously the first Yogg had been played on turn 1, so Frenetic just chose to jam it into a random secret which came from the weapon. Like, AyRoK had no control over what he was playing there. So he chose to play Deck of Lunacy into the secret, knowing that it could be the Oh My Yogg, but probably expecting that it wasn't, right? Having seen one already played.
Yeah, it was literally 1 in 3 for it to be Yogg, right? There was literally like 3 secrets left in the deck at that point.
But I do think that's an undervalued situation as well, where people are way too scared to just play their expensive thing into Oh My Yogg. Like, it's not counterspell. If you play an expensive spell, you are going to play an expensive spell that turn. It's going to happen, right? And spells generally do things. So he was entitled to have something good happen for his 4-mana spell that turn. It's just Overgrowth turned out to be a very good one.
Speaking of good things happening, that's just a Blademaster on the board as 4/7, so that seems pretty good to me. Not only because of its decent attack, but the high health makes it just a good minion to have on board when you are looking at Mask.
I am very much enjoying AyRoK this game, who's gotten like Libram discount, Libram discount, Libram discount, Libram of Hope in hand, devolved into a Blade Master, and his reaction so far has been, God, I'm so unlucky. Oh, my
no, you missed it. When he got the devolve into Blade Master, he stuck his chin out a little bit and was just giving, just nodding. Like,
okay.
Yeah, good Blade Master.
Okay.
But I do like, although this looks a little bit weird with the True Seeker in hand, I do like just dropping the Libram of Hope here because it's just a big threat.
Yeah. Second evolving missiles now coming down. You see AyRoK clearly much more comfortable with his position. This is just Stormwind Champion Day, Ravens.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Combustion now, I'm going to clear this up. No big.
Oh, again. Actually, probably think it's Hand of Adal now, right? With the Aldor True Seeker. Probably seems a little bit smoother.
Yes, I like that too. I don't disagree. Damn it.
It's also kind of weird as well for AyRoK right now because that Sword of the Fallen has so little value.
Yes.
Even though I believe there are still 2 secrets left, right? But because they're just 2 secrets that Frenetic won't care about.
Mm-hmm.
Also, AyRoK is running double Libram of Judgment as well. So that's going to be a really big deal considering he's already pressuring Frenetic right now. You can land a 5-attack weapon, then this game might be over pretty quick.
There's some pretty clunky mage minions as well. And honestly, the advantage that's been gained from this overgrowth has been extremely minimal, right? And it's about to run out.
I'm trying to work out whether Libram of Justice is worth playing this turn for AyRoK. Probably not. Yeah. It's just so close, and it's like, will he need it? Well, I guess the answer is maybe. He's just seen Font of Power, so there's a reasonable expectation that you could need to deal with some minions. So I don't mind holding it at all. I'm just trying to think if there's a way he can maximize his chances for next turn.
Flame Strike Fireball trade now for Frenetic. Takes care of the board. That was very awkward. He was nearly able to do it with a Pexis Blast, but he needed the spell damage to deal 6 damage to the 4/6, but he wanted to trade first with the Mini Mage to take the Divine Shield off the 10/10 to then deal 5 damage to it, so a Pexis Blast would kill it. So he either had to leave the 4/1 up or leave a 10/5 up to use a Pexis Blast that turn. He was like weirdly 1 damage or 1 sequence off. He had to go with Fireball instead. Needs something plus barrier. The something is significantly less important. Oh, and he whiffed.
What percentage is that, Subtle?
It's well, slightly above 80%. Because the one that you picked gets removed from the pool the second time around. But yeah, call it 80.
I'm going to call it 86.34514. And it's especially tough as well, right? Because there's no world that AyRoK won't just swing face, right? There's no benefit as Paladin to actually not swing face. He doesn't run Alex Strasser in the list, so he's not trying for that either. Well, there's a benefit to test it before the Libram, right? Guess it doesn't matter with Justice.
I wonder.
I love these spots. Like, the game's just over. It's just one of our players just doesn't realize it yet. one secret down. He's choosing to throw that deliberately into the counterspell because the Libram of Justice is actually the better spell for him this turn, because that allows him to then clear the board with Blademaster. He's just thinking about... Well, no, there's no point thinking about Netherwind, right? Because if it's Netherwind, you have lethal. So
yes, yeah. I think, this is it. You go face, at this point, you go face, right? The test, the face play, then you deal with the board, or, you know, if something weird happens, you can deal with the board. But yeah, AyRoK is going to take the victory there, and he just had the not only good curve, but enough pressure, and Frenetic just not really... It's weird, right? Like, having a spell cast Overgrowth for you sounds good, but Frenetic just didn't really cash in on that, right? And I'm not even saying it was particularly his fault with the cards he was given, but he just didn't find that way to make that 2 mana worth something. It just never really kicked in, and there were multiple turns where Frenetic did stuff, but didn't actually impact the board in any way for a whole turn. And if you're doing that against Paladin that's got a reasonable curve, yeah, you're going to get beaten up.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's why Druids play Overgrowth, right? Because they play 9 mana cards, 10 mana cards in their deck, right? And they very specifically want to play those cards. When your deck is a collection of multiple 3/2/1 cost cards and a few that are more expensive than that, it's much more beneficial to discount every card in your deck by 1 than it is to just gain 2 mana per turn, because you can see it quite simply. Like, if you play Arcane Intellect, you've saved 1 mana on the Arcane Intellect, and then you draw 2 1-mana spells, and you save a mana on those 2 1-mana spells and play them for 0, you've already gained 3 mana that turn, right? Whereas you only had the ability to gain 2 on any given turn with Overgrowth. So just because of the way the deck is built, gaining mana from Druid ramp is just so much less effective. And obviously, the downside of that is that, you know, he was trying to play Deck of Lunacy that turn, which would have been enormously more powerful than what he ended up doing.
Oh, we are diving into the next game now. 1-1 so far in this series, and both players going to be on their mages. And funnily enough, we're talking about Mage maybe not being the dominant force it was a few weeks back. Both mages have lost in this series so far, and at least one's going to get a win now, but it's not been looking too impressive, at least today, Soto.
Yeah, and you see it in the reflection, even in the bring rates, right? Only 50% of the field actually even bringing Mage, which I think is about right. I think it's about where the power level of the deck is at. It's still very good. It still wins the majority of games that it draws Incanter's Flow on curve. Don't know how that works when both players do it, but we'll just run with it. But yeah, I think the ability for it to find its way out of trouble in mid-game situations where it doesn't have flow has kind of just crashed through the floor at this point, as other decks have got more efficient around it, and it's been picking up nerfs along the way. So I think it's in a relatively healthy position in terms of overall win rate against the other the rest of the decks in the field. It's just a matter of all that win rate being inflated into one card and how you feel about that in terms of design philosophy, right?
Yeah, and Frenetic gets to answer the mini-mage with the devolving missiles now. Ooh, was that an almost insta-fireball face then he was thinking about? I'm not upset by that.
I am also not upset by that.
Lab partner fireball? He's gonna hold the lab partner, okay.
Yeah, I think he's holding on to lab partner here in case he needs to use use combustion to clear anything, and he needs to find card draw, right? 'Cause it's the one thing his hand is missing. So if he were to pick up Cram Session, it's worth just having that lab partner still in hand.
AyRoK can respond in kind though with a Cram Session of his own.
Whoa.
He can just dump a fireball to face if he wants to, but he's going to go for Rundor. I think I would have been tempted to fireball that turn after seeing that mask come out number 2. Like, it's a lot of mana to spend in the next few turns if he wants to sort of rush this game.
I'm kind of with you. I'm slightly upset at how little mana was spent that turn for AyRoK. Like, even if he was going to Runeorb, he could have just Runeorb again with the other 1 mana, found something to do. He also could have picked Cram Session instead of Ring Toss off the first Runeorb and just played Cram Session with his other 2 mana. A lot of things that could have been done differently.
Yeah, I'm still with just a fireball him in the face play.
I mean, it's also valid. It does also spend your mana, yeah.
So, because AyRoK is now almost certainly feeling behind, I think this is going to look at some kind of Apexis Blast turn, in which I would have liked to have seen the Apexis Blast first.
Yes.
Is that fair? What card would make him not Apexis Blast this turn, do you think? Is
No,
there one?
I think that's fair. There is downside. Obviously, we talk a lot about the upside, spell damage, Mizaki, all that kind of stuff. But there is the one that people generally forget about, the high Abyss Allura. But there is more upside, so generally you are favoured in doing Hexus Blast first.
It's funny, right? Although Frenetic looks like he's applied an absolute ton of pressure, he doesn't actually have a way up until, I guess, now to finish up the game. There's a Pexis Blast, but that's about it.
I just noticed he took third Fireball as well. I was not expecting him to take third Fireball.
Yeah. It's just funny because it's it's funny because it's cards he just cannot play this game.
Yeah. I mean, like all the cards he were offered there were quite redundant, but I felt like second Flow was more likely to be impactful than third Fireball. I'm like struggling to imagine a world where third Fireball is important.
That sounds silly, but even to like proc a counterspell, right? Like for the flow, I mean, like just a cheaper card to play out and throw away. Oh, okay. Well, that helps, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good draw for that exact reason.
Yeah. Because obviously you could say, oh, well, Devolving Missiles. Well, what about a situation like now where you can't because there's no enemy minions?
So I think you check Counterspell with Font, then you rip the Mask, and then if the other one is Netherwind, you devolve the Netherwind minion at the end of the turn.
Oh.
This goes 8 to face now if you play Mask, which leaves them on 11, and you do have double Fireball on the following turn. But you would suffer a little bit against second Counterspell if you were to do that. I'm not sure that's really a thing that you play around.
Only if they don't play a minion, right? Because you've got
only if they don't play.
AyRoK would have Devolve in hand.
Time runs out on me.
I like it. Play the Mask.
Seems good.
Just makes sense because it's a 2 health minion, right? It's just so easy to deal with. And AyRoK's crossing his fingers. A win in this game would mean he's only got one more to go.
Wait, 13? He's one off?
Yeah. No, he's one. Wait, what?
He's one mana. Yeah.
He's one mana off. Yeah.
Yes. He's several damage and 1 mana off being. He's 1 mana off being 1 damage off lethal.
Yeah.
Even a Pexis Blast into +2 spell damage would not get there, right? That would be 1 off.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's just the Rune Orb, right?
It's just the Rune Orb, yeah. Way of looking at it. Play a secret. Yeah, it's just the most troll thing you can do. It's not actually a relevant secret, but
I mean,
it's something.
Yeah. In the worlds where the burn isn't there, it's a relevant secret there, right?
Yes,
especially with the 5/3. So the play makes sense. He's just got to hope the burn's not there. AyRoK gets to test for that counter spell, and his 18 fireballs and 6 massive Cthuns are coming in handy as he wins the game and goes up 2-1 in this series.
I like how he used the discovered third fireball as well to get the level. So yeah, I needed this all along. It was just mana efficient. He just spent his mana that turn. He didn't use the discounted one, just used the 2 4s instead. But yeah, very nicely played, I think, overall from AyRoK, even though I had some questions about the discover choices. He kept a cool head because he was a turn behind on the flow, and I think his navigation through the turns of like when to draw, when to be defensive, when to deal damage, which are kind of the 3 types of turn in the Mage mirror, I think he recognized those macro points very, very nicely, and was a deserving winner in the end.
Yeah, you could see there where there was a turn or so where Frenetic just didn't feel like he did anything, right? And you can't do that in the mirror match. You have to like accomplish something significant almost every turn if your opponent's doing that as well, because you can't fall behind because you will just die. So a good win there for AyRoK, and he's 1 game away from at least staying alive in not only this week of Grandmasters, but in Grandmasters as a whole. And it does look like now AyRoK, only having his Rogue left, he does have to face off against a Warrior. And at least in this matchup, it's going to be a tough one for him to bag a win.
It is, but we have seen it happen, I think, today already.
I think it was an
beating the
APAC,
Warrior. I think there was some player fault involved in that happening. I do think the matchup was played far too greedily from the Warrior side. It is generally one of the best matchups in the game for Rush Warrior, just because they are way too efficient at taking control of board early. And then never letting go because the minions are just way too big. And, you know, you can play Miracle Rogue or Weapon Rogue. It's kind of the same thing. You only deal with so many big minions when they come down, right? Eventually, you just run out of ways of dealing with that situation. Right. Your goal is just to be quicker, more efficient, more aggressive than your opponent, which is quite difficult to do when you're playing against Rush Warrior.
Yeah, it is. Important to note, though, there are those draws from Rush Warrior where you just don't hit what you need, right? There aren't, you either don't hit the card draw elements, you're not hitting the relevant minions to the situation, whether that's hitting a bumper card to be able to clear up a wider board or not. So there are
discover like 3 run facts that you're never going to play for some reason instead of other cards.
But yeah, you can you can be a little bit dry sometimes as the warrior, which means that's when the rogue can pounce, right?
So, was that a criticism of Warrior or of my casting? I was very confused there for a second. It can be a little bit dry at times.
Can it be both?
Why not both?
Wow, double athletic studies opening though is where it's at.
This is not the dry hand.
Nope.
Is this the wet hand? Is that how that works, Raven? Is that what we're going?
Moist.
I
think it's the
damp
correct term.
hand. Yeah. Immediately, though, goes Rakara instead of the Vile Fiend. Whereas he could have gone Athletic Studies, play Vile Fiend for 0 next turn. And, like, he just has a 3/5 at that point, right? Like, I feel like he's just already ahead.
So many options.
Yeah, that's true. But that it's delayed. Like, the problem is it just too late? 'Cause it's still another 2 turns till it comes out, right?
Yeah. No, I get that. But I think, in general...
Whereas
dormant minions are a lot more efficient than people tend to think they are.
Look at Rakara now.
Oh,
most
talented Rush Warrior I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, 3 mana Runthak seems pretty good to me.
And this is discovering the extra Blade Master as well, right? Like, Blade Master is such a quality minion in the in this particular matchup.
100%, but it's just the fact that he can buff it on turn 3 with a 3/6 is insane, right?
Yep.
Like, I think even without, if the Blade Master was any other minion, Frenetic would be still extremely ahead in this game.
Absolutely. Takes the smart trade as well. Might look a little strange here to trade into the smaller minion, but not only does he kill a Prize Plunderer, which can be used as a Shadow Step target to deal with his Runthak, he also has more than 3 health on his minion, which means he is resistant against Brain Freeze, and also out of range of Wicked Stab, because Wicked Stab has not ranked up yet. So by trading into the smaller minion, he makes it significantly more difficult for AyRoK to be able to clear it up on the following turn. Very nicely done.
For a few good mercies.
Well, AyRoK's just doing the most powerful thing per turn he can do. Just going to drop that Kazakus and hope that some golems can dig him out of this.
Probably deal 3.
Yeah.
It's not buffing a board. Just give up on the idea that you're buffing a board. You're not.
And also, it's not like some of the other matchups we talk about.
Yep.
There's always something to deal 3 to, right, against Rush Warrior. And if there isn't, you've probably won. So you're fine.
Just dead.
Yeah. There's also the Tent Trasher soon as well. That's what, a 6/6 then?
Yeah, it's only 1 buff, right? Yeah. Yep. Again, nice sequencing, nice trading. Not using the Rakara to trade, so the Rakara resists a 3 damage golem here unless it's poisonous. Very nice.
And I like this response from AyRoK. You just can't leave Rakara alive. It's just not going to happen. So got the Mankrik to round out the turn there, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah, there's 10 Trasher now, though, double discounted by Mech and Pirate.
Yeah, it's just insane, isn't it?
feel like I would have just spent my mana that turn and also played Parade Leader, but I guess he's just holding back with the Samuro in hand, which is understandable. Like maybe if Jandis comes down, right, like Samuro Blade Master like clears it or something, but I think I would have played it, honestly.
It's weird. Oh, nice.
Woo!
Okay. It's weird, right? Because it's one of those things where you're so far ahead, so just play more stuff so you never fall behind, or you're so far ahead, why potentially throw it away to one stupid thing happening? You know, it's just two different schools of thought.
Yep. It's definitely a good card to have in hand because you're about to get the Darkmoon Riders back.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's just drawn the nuts with the Playmaker as well. Which means every single Darkmoon Rider is infinity damage.
I'd love it if the attack was just the sign.
Yes. And that is game.
Yeah, secret passage into another game of Hearthstone, I think is the plan here.
Okay. Shooting Star? Feeling it.
Oh wow, this placement's actually pretty good from Frenetic, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Bastion was okay, but still not good enough. Yeah. Flurry now, maybe, but then again, like, what's that stalling for? Kind of nothing.
The Flame Strike.
Yeah. Just 12 damage. 12 damage is the exact amount of damage you don't want to have to take here. I guess it's 15 even with the weapon line as well. But yeah, it just means that Frenetic is a Watley draw to draw Alex or an Alex draw away from lethal for the rest of the game. Or you could just top the Troublemaker and put everyone out there misery. That seems powerful too.
Does seem pretty strong. Can he dodge it and survive?
Yeah. No.
What could he even... I literally don't know what draws there are to get him out of this. Well, it works. He's still in. Just actually works.
Board's full?
Yeah, he
Troublemaker
can't play any minions. That's the problem. Wait, did he play Troublemaker last? You can
yes, he
Cleave it. And then Shadow Step Van Cleave.
If you play any minions, Frenetic just trades a board space and then the Troublemaker summon. Like, if you're telling me that Mankrik hits face, then Troublemaker summoned minions also hit face.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so he can't actually play any minions because that means...
I see one.
Be able to trade a board space? This is dumb.
Wait, does this steal armor up?
I give up.
Okay, it does not. Okay, nice effort there from AyRoK, but that game felt like Frenetic was winning that all the way from turn one. The double athletic studies is exactly what you want because it's the combination of getting overstatted minions out earlier than they should be, and they have Rush against Rogue, right? Like, that's exactly what you want, and we saw it pay off for Frenetic there. So it was a good matchup. He chose to cue the good matchup in there, and even the nice little hit from the Golem was not enough there for AyRoK, but it does mean that we're going to start as we finished. We're going to finish as we started, sorry. Got that the right way around. As Mage versus Rogue, and Frenetic actually won the Rogue versus Mage matchup as Rogue at the start of this series. So again, he's probably a little bit nervous going into it as the last game, as again, if history is to repeat itself, that would mean AyRoK would win.
Yes, indeed. And honestly, like, given the option these days, I would rather be sat on the Rogue side of this matchup overall. I think it's very, very... I think it's gone from being, like, 51% favored to, like, favored by a decent amount. Okay. It's a hand with potential from AyRoK's side. And that, as I mentioned before, has come from the nerfs that Mage has received, but then also people just getting better and better at piloting Rogue. And I think they understand just little intricacies about this matchup. It seems weird to use the word intricacies. I think largely is what I'm referring to is just getting as much burn damage as humanly possible to your hand by any means necessary. Vanessa Van Cleef, copy burn from your opponent, discover extra burn from one thief, any method that you have for finding extra burn damage. Because normally you're going to get minions early, you're going to get some chip damage, but then they will race you in the end when they clear your board and just start finding those turns to throw burn at face, so you need to be able to back that up with burn of your own.
So many options.
Red dot opening here for AyRoK.
Yeah, he does have the good cards, but he doesn't have anything to do until the good cards come down, which is a bit of a problem.
It's like knowing the dance moves to only one song. It's cool when the song comes on, but gotta wait around until then. And same again? See, at this point, I think if I was AyRoK, I'd just get frustrated and coin out Man quick, just to pile on some level of pressure, but it does walk straight into combustion.
Does, yes.
And it uses the coin, which is obviously a big deal.
Yeah, it would give you the swindle activator, right? Just being able to swindle into the wife straight away, which is an out that's not insignificant because there aren't that many spells in the deck. I believe 8 spells in the standard build of Miracle Rogue, and several of those have been drawn already. One of them is the swindle that you're casting. But since you're using the coin, how do you then combo the swindle on the following turn, right? To even go for that out. So yeah, I think he just does have to play a little bit slower here and just go into coin Jandis. And if we will remember, Raven, AyRoK has had what will be best described as a turbulent relationship with the card Jandis Barov over the course of the season. I think there was one against, was it Boston, who really just soloed the series? He played 3 Jandises and they were just unbeatable and just won 3 games against AyRoK on stream.
Best way to describe it, worst way to describe it, bad.
Divine Shield summon a copy. If he took it, that was available. And he did. So it's a slow start, but it's also been a slow start now from Frenetic, who is going to go for turn 5 Deck of Lunacy at this point. No flows in hand, no flows cast, so he just has the full cost, beefed up Deck of Lunacy deck at this point. Yeah, AyRoK going to throw up the prayer hands, and that is an initial colossal whiff off the Deck of Lunacy.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of nothing. And right now, Frenetic's got nothing really to deal with this board. Like, not even close.
Does find the ice barrier this time, though.
And so at this point, is it actually wise to hold on to Jandis at all? Because post-Lunacy, you're expecting some, like, AoE clears, for example. Is there a reason to pile on more big minions?
The reason to pile on more big minions is then you have more big minions.
Right. But 2 of them die to any AoE is the problem, right?
Yes. Wait, 2 of them die to any AoE?
The Jandis. That's a minion.
Right, the Jandis. Okay. The Jandis isn't one of your big minions, though, is the problem. Illusion did go on the stealth minion, so he is asking for AoE. I think this is a little bit overrated against Mage specifically, the illusion on the Tiger when you get it, because just naturally you kind of get savaged by combustion positioning doing it this way, right? Like it's just such a natural thing in response to Jandis, to combustion your Jandis, that stealth isn't necessarily a huge factor. Not to mention in normal scenarios they also have Mask and so on, but obviously terrible play this turn.
This might make no sense, but I honestly just think AyRoK thinks the 3 Divine Shield minions will just get there.
I think
so
that's
just
fair.
Doesn't care about the others. Like,
I think that is probably very accurate. I have a feeling there is an almighty pop-off coming in about 90 seconds from now, Raven.
Assassinate deals with 1, but that's about it. These Divine Shields. Okay, you can fireball the other. I actually thought that cost more mana. How wrong I am to think a mage spell costs is relevant mana.
15 damage. Alexstrasza cannot be coined out just yet.
Yeah, but it does have 2 1 makers. Wait. Vanessa for fireball.
Nessa.
Yeah, Vanessa for Fireball.
Correct.
That's
Yep,
just
yeah,
game.
absolutely correct.
AyRoK survives. He survives and he makes it. Very, very quick win here for AyRoK, and there we go. That's what he needed. He needs still more than that, and that is how many.
2 more. 2
Yep.
more. You cannot argue. His head is in the right place. Like, obviously, when you get players who are as emotional as AyRoK is, you can go either way, right? Like, to me, it's a strength. I've always been the same when I've played Hearthstone, even competitively. And it can be channeled, right? Like, I think there is this perception that you should be stoic and robotic and contain your emotions because showing emotions is tilt. And that's nonsense. They're not the same thing, right? Like, clearly AyRoK's head is in the right place because that is, for my mind, the perfect reaction, right? You celebrate, you're happy, but then you clearly demonstrate you know what the deal is. The job is not done. 2 more. That's the story. 2 more from this position. But yeah, I would love to see it, and it would be one of the great stories in competitive Hearthstone history, I think, if a tearful, waving goodbye AyRoK 1 week then suddenly is our final week champion or our final week finalist and actually manages to survive relegation, just, you know, snatching glory from the jaws of defeat at the very last moment. I think it would be a fantastic moment to witness.
Right, and I don't think anyone can argue with the fact that he's got the fire for it, right? Like, you can see right there and then that he is hyped and he wants